Now let's come in here and we'll analyze this romper, and we'll do a real quick drawing of it off to the side here. For this romper, I did not put a plumb line in here because I want you to be able to see that there is a little center front seam in here. And at first, your first impression is that this is a little tiny dress, but then you notice here that some of this is sticking out and you can tell, oh no, it's a romper. And there is a center front seam connecting through here. If it's hard for you to see on your handout, watch what I do here, and then you can do the same thing. Now let's just quickly analyze. So here's the tops of her shoulders. Her shoulders are popping to her left side, which would mean that wherever the top of the bodice right here, the other one that's hiding in her hair will be parallel with that. So find the top edge of this, go parallel with her shoulders, come across. The other side of her bodice will hit right here. Now if you'll notice down here, her knees are going this direction and her hip is going that direction as well. So her shoulders are popping to the left, her hips and knees are popping here to the right. So come down here to the knees, and let's just get a real quick rough estimate on the knees popping here to the left, and then come back up into here where you think is probably the fullest part of her hips. Just take your best guess, and then somewhere up above here, where do you think would be like her belly button, top of hip bones? And then we want to have the bottom of her rib cage somewhere in this area right here. And make sure you're following what the shoulders are doing. And you can kind of see where her waist is starting to crunch in right here, and her hips are popping back out there. Now this romper, it doesn't have any kind of a dart here, and I don't see any kind of a French dart here. So it's pretty loose, just coming down the whole way on her. It has just a little bit of shaping from the side seams only. Once you come down into the leg, if you notice the hem of this leg is curving down and this one's curving down. But the two of them together are following what the hips are, or what the shoulders are doing. The reason why it's doing that is because this is attached all the way back up to that shoulder. So since her shoulders are popping to the left, that's pulling her hem upwards. So even though her hips and knees are popping to this side, the hem of her rompers is popping up to that side. So let's get this set up now so we can do it here on our paper. And since her support leg is her right leg, we'll use this model here. So now I've come in just next to my pants here, and I've set up here with this first model with her support leg on the right side, and I have a plumb line on my paper, and I've squared it up with my model, and I have enough room where I can see from her chin all the way down to her knees, and we'll draw a romper inside of here. Now coming in with our light pencil, what we're going to do is we're going to establish these spaghetti straps here on her shoulder, coming down to what's going to be the little V tops for the top part of her romper here. Now whatever distance we come down, we want to make sure that it's covering her. So what I would like to do is, here's where her bra is. I would like to come in and find at center front where is going to be the lowest cut on this piece. So let's go ahead and just come up a little bit above the top of her bra there. If you look at the cut of this, like I was saying before, there's no darts in here, so it's a little bit loose. So you'll notice that this is curving downwards here, or this is curving out here, and it's curving out here. And that gives it a nice cupping shape and also kind of a loose feel to it. So when I come to aim back up here for this spaghetti strap, I know that I want to do kind of that curve feeling to it, and I want to cover up her bra. Now that I found this location, I need to have the exact same location over here. So using her shoulders, go ahead and get that guideline, and then we can come down to finding the location on this side. And then we can do the same kind of a short curve heading towards center front, and then a curve covering up her bra to the outside. And now that I see this in place, I feel like I want it to go a deeper cut in the front here. So I'll go ahead and come down into this area. So now it's a lower cut here in the front. The spaghetti straps are going to come all the way back up to the shoulder, and they have a width to them, so you need to draw two lines. When you get to the top of the shoulder, make sure that the turnaround at the top here is higher than her skin. And then let's go ahead and draw in her shoulders and neck. So now that I've put in her a little bit of her neck, shoulder blades, her throat, her arms, her armpits, I can get a sense of what's going on here at the top of her romper. The next thing we want to do is the center front here has to be on this drawing, because that's how they're doing all the shaping here. That's how they're getting it to fit into the waist. That's how they're getting the shaping for the top part here. As well, anytime that you're drawing pants or leggings, you have to have a center front right here. Now remember, when we draw our croquis, we don't connect the princess panels or the center front here in the waist. And I was saying that anytime that you start to draw clothes, that's when you'll connect it. And usually it's some type of a curve. So that's what's going to happen here. Come down here to the lower part, and let's get her center front. And go ahead and just draw it down below her crotch level. And then we need to connect this back up to here, and what it'll be is a small curve in this area. Now it is possible to make this romper without a center front up here, but you would have to have some type of a seam going all the way across. So either something here at the empierre seam or something in the waist or high hip. You would have to have some kind of a seam, because from the hips down you have to have center front if this is pants. What I want to do now is the sides of the romper. And if you notice, it's a little bit loose and flowy. So what we want to consider is this side here is the crunch side, and this side here is the extended side. So a lot of times what I'll do if something is loose and flowy is on the extended side, I'll just start dropping down with gravity, maybe curve into the body a little bit, and then I'll pick up from where I left off over here. Then for the crunch side, what I'll do is I'll come in and I'll put some wrinkles going right through this area. So again, this will drop down, and then you'll have a few wrinkles here in the waist area before it continues down her hips. Now if we take a look at the rompers here, you can see at the crotch here where it becomes a center seam and it turns into one leg versus the other leg. And basically the location where that is right at the bottom of her crotch level. For designing, what we'll do is we'll just do a little Z right there. So then that lets the pattern makers know that this is where the center front seam stops, and then this is where you're starting to draw the leg from her rompers. So if we come over here to our model, we can see here's the bottom of the crotch level. This is that center front seam, and we'll just put a little Z in there. So now anything below this is the leg for the romper, and this was center front. If we look at what's going on here, the legs are loose, and you can see the center front is starting to actually kick forward. It's kicking this way, this part of the leg, and it's overlapping on top of that leg there. What we're going to do for our model is, since this is her support leg, it's just dropping down into space, we're going to have her hem curving downwards. And then this is the leg that's turning out. We're going to have the hem curve upwards. So it's like you can almost start to see into the leg itself. And we want to show that these are loose. So we'll have where this dominant leg, the leg itself will stick out on top of this one. The last thing is we don't want to follow the angles for the hips. Remember, since it's a one piece and this is all the way up to her shoulder here, the hem of the shorts are going to pull upwards to follow what her shoulders are doing. So let's have the hem of her leg curve down, and it's going to be just below the crotch level. So these are going to be really short rompers. So I want to just start to determine kind of where that hem is going to be. Then I can come up here and find the angle of the shoulders and come down to that hem location. And this way we can follow what the shoulders are doing. And so again, here with center front traveling down to the crotch level. But this pair of shorts is going to be on top of that one. And I'm going to change the side of the leg. So her romper leg is going to start to move out this direction. And then we'll have a curve following what the hem is doing. So this one was curving down. This one we're going to have it curve upwards. And what we'll do is we'll have the romper just start to stick out off of her skin a little bit. So I would have where the side seam from the romper is coming down and turning and going behind her leg skin. And then the hem is curving out right here. And then you can see the rest of her leg coming down. Now I have all the basics in place and I want to come back and start to darken it in. But the first thing I'm noticing is this still looks like it's some kind of micro mini dress, and where her leg is traveling, this is supposed to be the other side of her pant leg, and it looks like it blends right into her legs. So I need to get a little bit of stair stepping going on so these lines are not all lining up and matching each other. For me, I think in order to make this work as a pair of rompers and two separate legs that are starting here, I need to make them just a little bit longer so I have some more room to get to separate them out. So I just put in a couple basic guidelines of what I think I want, and then I'm going to go back and erase my first lines that I put in here. Now that I have a little more separation between the layers and between her leg here, I'm going to go ahead and come back and darken this in. Now it's a lot easier for you to see that this is one pant leg coming downwards, and it has a little bell shape heading back towards her crotch level. And then this is the other pant leg that is scooping upwards, and we can see slightly inside of there. So for instance, this leg is traveling up, and we can see into the pant leg, and then this one is traveling down and curving downwards. And then again right here you'd put a little Z, so then you know that this is where center front stops and this is where the pant legs start. I'll go ahead and darken in this last little bits right here, and we're all done with this one. So if we were turning these into more of like a lingerie piece, maybe there's some kind of a trim or edging up here at the top. If you're following the corners up here, you might even have some kind of a little seam break right here and right here, and then it's easier to miter those corners with some kind of a lacy trim or something. Down here in this area, I would throw just a little bit of a shadow to separate this leg here, which is going behind this leg right here. And then where we have this little crease back up in the body here where her waist is extending, I might also have a little shadow on this layer of fabric that's falling behind here. Since we're learning to do pants and pants with pockets, let's go ahead and put a little pocket on here. Now in order to put a pocket on here, realistically these pant legs are so short that if she did have a pocket on here, it would almost be useless. She could probably just barely get her cell phone or something in there. But just to give you a sense of doing like a side seam pocket, what would happen is you would draw her arm heading towards that location. But then we need the fabric itself to stick out as if though her arm went into here. So going a little bit above it and a little bit below it, we would want to have a sense of the fabric bowed up to hit her hand and come back to where it was originally. So now it feels like her hand is going in there. And then since this is such a long side seam, how they would build it, it was the pocket itself would be a side seam pocket built into the seam. To show that, you might still have some kind of a top stitch that will come out one step and follow along this curve and back and in again. If it was a more expensive brand, they might even do some kind of a hidden Hong Kong binding right here or something really cool to that effect. Then inside of here, if you recall, her hand comes all the way down into this area here. So we might just throw a little bit of a crosshatch just to say, hey, something's going on right here in this area. So that's good enough for this design. The most important part of this is knowing that you have to have a center front seam somewhere below the waist, and you have to signify where the seam stops and the pant legs start. For the last drawing here, what I want to do is a pair of slacks or dress pants. Now when we come over here to analyze these pants, I don't want to mess around with the jackets yet, because we're going to do another video where we're going to analyze jackets and collars and doing all these pockets and center front and buttons and everything. So for now, we're not going to touch these. Let's come down here and let's analyze these pants, and then we'll draw a pair of our own. Now since this outfit is a white jacket, it was a little bit difficult to see all the different details. So inside Illustrator, I drew all these little tiny pin lines around all the different objects and features so you can see what's going on. As we move down here into the pant area, you can see I already have a plumb line in place. And you can also see just off to the side here is center front. Now since this is a walking pose, her center front is drifting off to the same side that her hip is popping. So if you remember from when we did the walking pose, this was her support leg. Her hip was popping to this side. If I were to come in and line up my ruler with the plumb line, here you can see the center front is off to that side. So come down into this model and just make it a little bit darker using your pencil now. It's a straight line that turns into a quick, short curve before it turns into some wrinkles from her support leg. Now come over to the side of the leg here, and let's try not to draw on the jacket because we're going to use that for later. So just starting right from the edge of the jacket, come down the leg, and then inside of here we can see this last big wrinkle right here becomes the inside of her leg here. So what you can do is you can draw this coming up in a little bit of a release. So it's just a short little corner heading back up into the pant to let you know that that wrinkle released what it was doing. Now you can see a few other wrinkles coming off of here, but if we do too much of drawing all these wrinkles and stuff, it might be confusing. The sample sewer might think that there's some kind of a gather or something going on there, when realistically these are sleek, smooth, silky trousers, and these wrinkles are just because she's walking. So we don't want to get too crazy with drawing all of that. There are a few more wrinkles going up in this area. And basically that's just where the juncture between this curve of her leg and the flat spot from her stomach and her hip bones, there's just a few other little wrinkles going up in that area. So let's just do like one more here and a little one there. And that's plenty. For this side of the pant, this is just dropping down smooth off of her leg. So really, her leg is here and the pant is dropping down into space, away from the leg. For the inside of the pant leg, you don't even see it because this leg is going in front of this one. Also, the pant legs are kind of wider. So as soon as you draw this pant leg coming down, you don't even have to worry about drawing anything for this leg here. Let's finish getting this one down to the ankle. Now down here at the ankle area, it's totally covering her ankles and everything all the way down to the top of her toes. So this is even lower than what would be like an ankle length skirt. Also, the hem is curving downwards, so it's below, it's down from the waist, it's curving down. And then the other leg here, what we could do is to show this area where the pant leg is kind of catching on here, so it's coming down, it's creasing a little bit and catching onto her calf. We could come down, cut in, show a few wrinkles, and then continue heading downwards. Now if you could see the other one, what would be going on is this would be curving back like that, and her foot would be somewhere coming down into here. Now it might be hard for you to see, but the hem of this pant is really wide. I can see there's kind of a second layer underneath here. The hem of this pant would be a blind hem, so you would not have top stitching coming all the way through here since it's silk. But to show that blind hem construction, what I would do is, following the same curve as the hem of her pants, I would just do a couple little dots spread out, and that lets the sewers know that this is a blind hem and it's a pretty wide hem as well. Let's come over here and analyze this pair of pants. Now some of it is hidden because she has this handbag off to her side, but we can come in here and we can pretty much just guess what's happening here with the side of her hips. Now the same thing for this pose. This is her support leg, so her right leg is a support leg, everything's popping to her right side. Now if you recall on the jeans, the extension for the jeans was coming over to the right. So the left side of the jeans has the extension, and this is how they do menswear. And this is also how they're doing women's jeans. But once you move back into trousers like this, trousers here and business slacks like this, you're going to notice that the extension now is on the right side, extending on top of the left side. And you can see that up here with the buttons as well. So this side of the jacket here is on top of this side here. So the right side has the extension. So here we have, this is the extension, and it turns into the center front going down into her crotch area. I don't see a button on here, so this belt right here is covering things up. But basically we would have down at her full hip, you would have some kind of top stitching, depending on the construction for the jeans, if there's top stitching or if it's all hidden inside of there. But just show me that you understand that the top stitching is here, the extension is there. And then we have this waistband curving downwards. And then inside of here, if you look really closely, there's a belt loop. And there's probably another one right here that goes underneath the jacket. And then there is a belt right here as well. So you can just draw some kind of a thin belt coming out into space and shade it in so you see it a little bit better. Belt loop, belt, and then behind here is the waistband for the pants. Now here we have this hand and pocket, and this is a side seam pocket. So this is similar to what we were doing here on the romper, where it's just the side and then it pops out and her hand goes inside there and there's a little bit of a cast shadow. So the same thing is going on here. You have the side of the pants, so let's start down here by the knee. The side of the pants are coming up. There's a couple little wrinkles, especially here where her hand is. And then the side of the pant is going to curve outwards and come back under. And then from here on, this is going to be her hand, wrist bone, forearm. And then in this instance, we can see her thumb is sticking out. So here we have a thumb. And if she had a thumbnail that you could see, it would be a 3/4 view thumbnail like that. So then down in here, her hand and pocket is making some wrinkles travel towards it. So what I would do is I would travel towards the hand and curve down and away. And for this wrinkle here, I would kind of just do the same thing. Travel down, curve away. Travel down, curve away. And you can see they're moving downwards until the last one here is pretty much just becoming what her pants are. And then you'll see a little shadow in here, so I would just do a very simple, just little crosshatch shadow, just to show that her hand is casting a shadow. Over here, again, the bag is in the way, but everything would be fairly smooth because her hip is pushing tight against the fabric, so there's not a whole lot of wrinkles in this area. Let's come down here and we'll talk about what's going on with her ankles as well as the crease here in her pants. So this crease is coming all the way back up into the pant here. And basically what's going on is the pants have kind of a loose fit to them. But in order to fit into the waist, there needs to be some kind of a dart somewhere. So probably right here where this belt loop is, for a short distance, there's going to be a dart right there. And the same thing is going to be on this pants right here, on her right side. What these darts are following is the same. Oh, let me get my let me get this girl. What those darts are following is your princess panels right here. So this seam right here and this seam right here, that would be the beginnings of your darts. And then remember, we have this guideline right here in the leg. This is going to be that crease that's inside of her pant leg. So the dart here eventually turns into this crease right here. So let's go ahead and lightly get this crease, and you can see it's traveling all the way down. And you don't want to make it too dark, and you don't want to do a continuous line the whole way. So for instance, on this side, you can see it's really popping out here below the knee and down. Up in this area, not so much. And then it's aiming back for that dart here. This is aiming back for that dart there. So where these wrinkles are, I'll just ignore the crease. Over here, I'm just drawing some of it. I let the crease stop. We get to the knees here. Then it picks up and continues down. Now down here at the hem, do this with me. So first, draw in her foot and the shoe. Whoops, sorry you couldn't see that. And do the same thing on this side. So draw just her foot and the shoe. Now that we have these in place, take a look at what's going on with the hem here. We can see now that the hem is tight right up against the foot on this side. So go ahead and connect this back up to her knee. It's tight right against the foot there. And come over to this inside leg as well. And we see that from the crease right here, it's starting to V back out, and then again it's tight right up along that foot there. And here's the crease right here. There's a little bit of a V right there. Now if you come over to this side, from here and here, we can see there's a large distance. So let's put a plus right here and a plus right here. Now the reason why it's doing this is because, remember, her hip is popping to this side, so the hem is also popping to this side for both of her pant legs. So this is exactly like when we were drawing our dresses, and we would have, wherever the support leg was, we would have everything is shifting off to the same side that her hips were popping to. So here's this girl, her hem is larger on this side, her hips are popping to this side. Her hem is larger on this side, her hip was popping to that side. So the same thing is going on down here. Also, because there's this crease in her pants, instead of it being rounded down, it's doing this very slight kind of a point. So it's a little bit of an angle here and an angle there. Lets you know that these are nice, crisp, pleated pants. And then let's get the outside leg here. So this will just be smooth traveling up. Once you get into the knee area, just a little bit of ripple there, ever so slightly. And then this one's just smooth all the way back up until you hit this wrinkle. So what we'll do now is we'll draw one more pair of pants right here in this area. And since we did our pair of jeans facing to this side, what I'll do is I'm going to use the opposite model, and we'll do a pair of slacks now facing to this side. So let's use this one here. Alright, so set up your paper here where we're coming across, we have room for a pair of pants. And I want to get as much leg as possible, as far down on the heels as possible as well. But we have to have this top of hip bone inside of here, or actually the high hip. So we have to have the high hip in here. It doesn't matter if the top of hip bone is going off the page, which is how I have it. Just make sure you have the high hip in here and as much of the shoe as you can. So again, get it as close as you can so we can still see the high hip. And then we'll have some room down here so we can draw some of her heels when we're doing the hem of her pants. Now for the jeans over here, if you remember, we're making them look really thick and rugged. So they have these big wrinkles, double top stitching, distressed at the knees. But also these jeans were fitted, remember? So it was tight on her leg here and here. It was tight here. And then of course it was tight all down here at her ankles and even a little bit extra long. And so it was gathering up. For this pair of pants, what we're going to do is, this is going to be really a thin, silky material. And it'll be very light and flowy and have lots of room off of her skin. So it's not going to be super tight. And then we'll do the traditional crease down the middle. And it'll have the crease when we come down in here for the cuff of the pants. So let's start by establishing the top of the pant and the center front. So we're going to use this right at the top of her underwear here. So this would be right at the high hip area. And then the center front, so go ahead and draw that in lightly. And then the top of the waistband, it will curve slightly down. So you're going to curve down the center front, curve back up to the high hip. So then the next thing I want to do is I want to find the location for the button and how large the button is. Now a lot of times on silky pants, like for instance these right here, there's actually no button or waistband or anything. It's got a zipper on the side or even a zipper in the back. But what we're going to do is we're going to continue drawing these as if though they have a button and an extension. So let's come in here and let's put a little tiny button right on center front. And then that lets us know how wide to make the waistband below. And again, whatever the width of the waistband is in the middle, it should be the same on both ends. Now for these pants, because they're expensive, what we're going to do is we're going to have a contour cut waistband. So when you come out here to the sides, go ahead and have it match the same shape as her side seams. As the side of her body, but making sure again that the waistband is slightly off of her skin, so this is bigger than her body. Now this is center front heading back down into the crotch area, but we're making it with a button, so it's going to have an extension. So really what's going to happen is the extension is going to be off to the side here and then slowly aim back for center front at the crotch. And then what I would do is I would come back and I want to erase this center front line and erase some of this plumb line so it doesn't confuse us later. So then we have the center front down at the bottom here becomes the extension over here. Now so far what I've been drawing is going exactly right to her crotch level. But with a pair of slacks, you're going to have a lot of ease from here to here. So some pair of slacks, you'll have an inch, even inch and a half, and all the way up to 2 inches below the actual crotch. So what we're going to do is let's drop this down, what would be the equivalent of about 1.5 inches, and then have that center front come into this area here. So now we have some room for her to move around inside the pants. Then to start with, let's just get the beginnings of this leg traveling down. So I can see the junction here where it's the round part of her leg and the flat part of her hip bones and stomach. And let's go ahead and just do a wrinkle. That will then come down to be this first part of this pant leg. For the other pant leg, remember, we're going to want to come up to a V, so you won't see any kind of a gap or a space here. So for this leg here, it's just going to continue right out of there and it's heading down towards this knee. And then over in this area we might have a little bit of a wrinkle traveling across, maybe a second one. And mostly just because this leg is coming up into space and it's pulling her pants up a little bit here. Now I want to do a very simple side pocket. And a lot of times if you do a crease right here at this princess panel, you have to have your dart. So let's put those darts in here. And then later on, this dart is going to become the center crease. So come over here to the center bone of the leg. Get your crease just heading towards the knee. And then we'll do the same thing here. So this is that center bone heading towards the middle of the knee. Let's just show where that crease is traveling. So again, it's darts right here that are creases right there. For a really slick pair of pants like this, like made out of silk, slippery, very thin and lightweight, when you do a pocket on the side, a lot of times, obviously it'll be less distance away from the pleat. So it'll be somewhere in between the side here and the pleat here. And you can just have it slowly curve off to the side. So it's almost a straight line, slightly curving in towards me, curving in this way. And then once you hit the side of the pants, it'll curve back downward. Now for this side here, there's two things going on. Her pants are going to crease right here, and we have this side pocket detail. So what I want to do is I'm going to rotate my drawing so I can come in here. At first, let's just draw what the pants would be doing, not even worrying about the pocket. So here at this juncture in her thigh would be a crease coming into here. So if you want, you can just draw a crease in there, and her pants would come back out of that, flowing well off of her leg, because remember these are loose fit, and it's going to come down here to her knee. And again, here was that little crease at this juncture, and then it'll be heading back up towards her hip bones. And as I look at that, the pants look way too wide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it fall right along the top of her skin here. But now that we have that, we want to get the same location for this side seam pocket. So again, we were going halfway from the princess panel out to here. But also, since this is a 3/4 view facing this way, the princess panel, the center front, is over here more, the princess panel is over this way more, so the side pocket would also be over this way more. So just start to curve it down, and then here at this buckle in her pants, I would have it crease outward a little more than usual. So we would come back and erase what we were doing here to show what it was like before there was a pocket. And now that there's a pocket popping out, it's filling in that space right there. Over here you would have the dart coming down, and this crease in the pleat would do something like that. It would just hit a couple of little bumps right here. And then in this area right here, what I would do is something to the reverse of this. So we had this layer of fabric was coming on top of this layer was fabric was going behind. I would come in here and I would have the leg from her pants would just start to crease a little bit in, and then this pocket that's bumping outwards would go a little bit behind. So you're just showing that it was starting to crease inwards and the pocket extra fabric popped out. Now this part of the, basically this is the facing for the pocket, and this is the same. And we have an outside curve because we're following what her hips are doing. At this point we need to cheat it, and we need to do an inside curve to make it match what the pants are doing. So I would erase that completely, come back in here and just do an inside curve. And that's what's going on with that right there. Now let's work our way down to what's going on with the knees, and let's make this pair of pants a lot less wide. Now, similar to what I was doing with the overlap right here, as well as this kind of overlap right here, for the leg where it's sticking out, the 3/4 view leg, I would have the front of the pant is creasing down here into the leg, and eventually we're going to have the knee, a little buckle, and heading straight down. And the calf muscle here is also touching her pants, so her pants will be riding right along that calf muscle as they're coming down towards the shoe. So again, this pant leg here is coming down, cutting into the knee area. And then this is the actual calf from her drawing that is making the pant leg continue all the way down to her ankles. On this side, there might just be a little buckle somewhere around the knee. And then because these pants are very loose, they're just heading back down for the ankle. Now, as a designer, you're going to want to decide how wide do you want these pants to be. So if we come back and we look at the support leg for this pair of pants here, and we can see about how wide it is here off of her foot is what we were aiming for. If we want to do the same thing, we'll want to get that, and as well as we want to have the crease on her pants. Now for me, before I start to decide exactly how wide I want her pants to be, I also want to have that center crease on her pants. So you remember from this drawing here, we had that center crease coming down, and then it was V-ing off the crease right there. We're going to do the same thing here. So now we're starting to get a sense of what the pants are doing. This leg here, they're pretty much falling straight down. This one, it's riding up on her thigh a little bit here. The pant pocket here is buckling outwards. And then it's coming down, it's falling along the top edge of her leg here. It's draping down beyond her knee. And then the calf from behind here is making her pants start to pop backwards. Now remember on this pose that her hips and her knees are all popping to the right side. So we need the hem of her support leg to also pop to the right side, just like as if it was a dress or a skirt. So if you remember, we have the crease of the pant and it's following the center bone on her legs. But if I'm going to make the hem pop off to one side because her hip is popping to that side, I also want the crease to be heading that direction. So for instance, you can see here that if this was her knee, that the hem and the crease both traveled off to the side there. So come over here and you can find where here was the knee, and I can see the bone that was traveling straight down from here. And what I want to do is I want to pivot so my hem is coming down here off of her foot. So that's the center crease, and it's traveling here off of her foot. So now that I have the crease traveling here off of her foot, and if I want to make the hem right here at the ankle length, so this is the 9 1/4 heads down, what I can do is I can start with This side of the leg will be close to her foot, angling down. So from 9 1/4 heads angling towards this crease. And then the same distance that I'm doing here, I'll do over here, starting from that 9 1/4 heads down. And now I have my hem is going to be creasing here and moving off to the side. Now later on it'll be a little bit confusing if I have her foot and this crease line up perfectly. So what I should do is stair step it. So the crease should either be slightly inside her foot or slightly outside her foot, so there's a separation between the two. So now that I've moved it off just inside of her foot a little bit more, and I have the same distance from here as there, I can come back up into the knee, and I'll make this a little bit tighter along her knee and a little bit more closer to her body as I come down to the hem right here. And then on this side, I can make this right from where I left off. I can have it pop out to here. Now I'll come in and I'll finish drawing what I can of her foot and her shoe. So then you can get a sense of the hem is popping off to this side. And right here I have it kind of bowing outwards a little bit. I don't like that. I want it to kind of scoop in a little bit. That way it starts to feel like it's almost starting to bell outwards as you get to that hem. For this leg here, basically if this silk was laying pretty flush along the top part of her leg all the way down to the knee, and then from then on it would start to want to drop with gravity. So this would just be traveling almost straight down with gravity. This also lets me know that I should make this upper part here much closer to her skin so I can get it to come and just fall right off of her knee. So that's her pant coming down right to the knee area, and then here I have a straight line where it's just dropping down with gravity. Now the pant leg, if I keep it dropping down with gravity, will get way too wide. And keep in mind that her calf is pulling the fabric towards it. So it's not going to totally perfectly drop with gravity. The next thing we want to get is, remember we have a crease in her pants. It's traveling towards her knee here. And then we have the center bone traveling down to the ankle bone here. Well, the crease will be somewhere in between dropping with gravity and the center of that ankle bone there. So if I just find a happy medium point, connect this back up to the center of her knee, then I'll know what the crease is doing for her pants traveling down. Now the pant here is going to fly way out into space away from her foot. But then some of it is going to travel back up here because her foot is kicking backwards. It's pulling the pants with her. So I want to find the same location. So here was that 9 1/4 heads down for just the normal pant. But up here her ankle was higher. So I need to kind of come back and aim for a higher point on here. And most likely this hem will physically be touching the heel, her shoe, and her foot. So what I would do is, if this is the crease location, I would have a slight outside curve, downward curve, heading to the back part of her pants. And then out into space here would be the other side. So now down in this area, we can see that this pair of pants, this is definitely wider than that. And remember, I had dropped this line here just straight down with gravity. But since this leg is pulling it back into space, now's my time to go ahead and trim some of this off of here. And as I trim some of that away, I want this angle heading back to cut even a little bit higher. Now I'll come in here and I'll get her shoe, just so we can see what's going on. So at this stage, everything that I've laid out looks pretty good. And I've done this with my lighter pencil. Now I'm ready to come back and sharpen my number 2 pencil and come back and start to darken in things that I love, and then just throw a few little cast shadows here and there to just emphasize some of the layers. So now I've gone back in and darkened my lines. I did a little cross hatching on the pocket facings, a little bit here in the shadows from her wrinkles or the extension. And then, so again, these are 2 little darts. So you'll start dark when you're up here at the waistband and get light as you come down. And then have a little break in between that and the actual crease. So this will be the crease traveling downwards. And make sure the creases stop before you get to the knee, because the knee is going to make it nice and tight right there, and the crease will flatten out. And then after the kneecap, as you drop back down, you'll get darker and darker all the way to the hem. And you can see here I threw in just a little bit of a cast shadow just to show you that it's a nice crisp pleat pressed into there. And I did a little shadow here for the back piece of this fabric as well. And the last thing we need here, since it's a pair of pants and she has her leg 3/4 turned out, is just a little hint of an inseam going through here. And since this is, we're not doing jeans, so over here we really emphasize like this inseam. We made it dark. We put this double top stitch. We don't want to do anything like this on a nice silk pair of pants. So let's make this inseam very, very light. And to finish these pants, let's do that same wide hem blind stitch. So whatever distance you do, make sure it's the same all the way around. And all you're doing is just these few little tiny dots. So it's just a little tiny dots, just a couple of them. The same distance following the hem. And then the sample sewers and pattern makers will know that you want a nice wide hem for the bottom cuff, and it's blind stitched. And I think that's pretty good. You get the idea for drawing a very narrow waistband. These simple side seam pockets, and then this would be a lightweight silky fabric that's wide cut. Now that you've completed this assignment, be sure to turn in where you have gotten so far on page 3. So this was analyzing all of the pants on here, as well as doing your notes during the video.